בואכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון. ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, mimelech malachei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. שובכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom. We're so glad that you decided to begin your Shabbat with us at Westchester Reform Temple. My name is Rabbi David Levy. I'm joined in the leadership of this service by our rabbinic intern, Ariel Milan Polisar, who I know will grace us with a delicious challah, which I actually have a matching one for this particular Shabbat. And if you have not yet had the chance to pray with our new cantor, Danielle Rodnitsky, we're so excited to have her with us and to pray with us and to pray with all of you. So take a moment and welcome Shabbat on your own as Cantor begins to welcome Shabbat for all of us by lighting candles. If you wish, I encourage you to do so in your own home.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We continue with Kabbalat Shabbat, our psalms that help us to bring in this feeling of Shabbat. And in that vein, one of the ways we welcome Shabbat together is by singing, and I know it's been a really hard part of the pandemic that we can't actually sing together. But I want you to know that even when you're not in this Zoom room, I hear you and I feel you. And so I wanted to teach something that maybe we can sing together. The words for you guys are Yailai. Together in the words of Lecha Dodi. ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי. אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
I don't know about you, but singing gets me very ready for Shabbat. So we join together now in the Baruch. So today I finished a book called Untamed by Glennon Doyle. And I was so inspired by her journey and her honest telling of her journey. And I actually found a piece in her text, though she is a Christian. I found a piece in her text that really resonated with my understanding of the Ahavat Olam prayer. So I hope you'll indulge me and allow me to read you this little piece, and then we'll say the Chatima together. So to give you a little background, she's describing her experience with meditation, specifically going into her closet, closing her door, sitting on the floor, and meditating. After a few weeks, like a gymnast who is able to stretch deeper after each training, I began to feel myself dropping lower during each closet session. Eventually, I sank deep enough to find a new level inside me that I'd never known existed. This place is underneath. Low, deep, quiet, still. There are no voices there, not even my own. All I can hear down there is my breath. I can know things down at this level that I can't on the chaotic surface. What I learned, even though I am afraid to say it, is that God lives in this deepness inside me. When I recognize God's presence and guidance, God celebrates by flooding me with warm, liquid gold. So as we imagine God flooding us with warm, liquid gold, we say together, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. We join together in the words of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We now come to Michamocha, our song of freedom. And when we think about Egypt, Mitzrayim, we think about narrow places and the fact that we are still on these 3 weeks that lead us towards Tisha B'Av, our time of greatest narrowness. But with our families and the family Shabbat last weekend, I was thinking about tight things that we actually bring us a feeling of expansiveness, like a warm hug. And so I said, what if the future could be like a warm hug? And now I'm wondering if the future could feel like we are being flooded and surrounded and held by liquid gold. So So thank you for that beautiful teaching. Let's join together and Micha Mocha and really create the world of our dreams. And now Vishamru, our prayer for Shabbat. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו we come to the Amidah, the central portion of our service. If you are able to, if you would like to, we invite you to please rise. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la. Adonai, Eloheinu, Velohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, Umevi Geula livnei vneihem, Leman Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch Ata Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Ata Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol Ata Rav lehoshia, Morid hatal, Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar. Mi chamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melech, melech memit umechayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol. Baruch ata Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch ata Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. We take a few moments silently, privately, for the prayers of our hearts.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I am so excited for you to hear from our congregant Mike Rahimi this evening. Mike and his wife Diane Drew have been members of WRT for over 20 years, with all three of their children having their B'nai Mitzvah here. He also enjoyed being a member of the adult choir during the tenure of Cantor Stephen Merkel of blessed memory. One of the reasons, though, I'm excited for you to hear from Mike is he's an exemplar of offering tochacha, the Jewish principle of authentic and constructive criticism that leads to conversation. You can always count on Mike to hear your message on a Friday night and be the first to encourage you to refine your thinking or to appreciate an argument that you've made. I have so enjoyed the thoughtful back and forth we have had as he wrote this Dvar Torah, and the numerous back and forths we've had before, and that God willing will continue to have for years to come. So I invite you now to hear from my fellow Israeli citizen, although he was lucky enough to have grown up there. I'm just, got it because my dad's an Israeli. Mike Rahimi, who will share with us a few words of Torah.
Let's see. The portions of Matot and Maseh are the last two readings in the book of Numbers. They essentially end the story of the Exodus from Egypt. Matot begins as God commands Moses to tell the Jewish people that they must kill the Midianites to avenge what happened earlier in the book of Numbers. They return from battle and tell Moses that they've killed all the men, including the 5 kings. And Moses angrily says that this is not enough. They must kill all the boys as well as all the women and those sexually active girls. Supposedly this happened, and the rest of the parasha deals with the spoils of war and how they are to be distributed. 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys, tons of gold and silver. No wonder this is called the Book of Numbers. Parashat Maseh is the final chapter in Numbers. It starts with Moses recounting all of the traveling in the wilderness they have done over these 40 years, naming towns and places they visited over time. Then God instructs Moses to command the Israelites once again that once they cross the Jordan River into the Promised Land, they must rid the land of all its inhabitants and destroy their idols and temples. Chapter 33, verse 55. But if you do not dispossess the inhabitants of the land, those whom you allow to remain shall be stings in your eyes and thorns in your sides, and they shall harass you in the land in which you live, so that I will do to you what I had planned to do to them. Finally, there is great detail on how the land of Canaan is to be divided among the tribes. And here I will stop my summary, although there is one very interesting and to me most important part still to come. I stopped to ask why. Why kill all the Midianites? Why rid the land of all its inhabitants? Why did the people who wrote these verses include all that? Many biblical scholars think that the verses we read today were finalized in the 6th century BCE, either during the Babylonian exile, which was 585 to 530 BCE, or after the return to Canaan, courtesy of good King Cyrus of Persia. I mention him because I am Persian, or at least half Persian. The events they describe theoretically happened 700, 800, or 900 years earlier, and were best the result of hundreds of years of oral history. History that changed slightly with each telling, and after generations of retelling, bore little resemblance to anything that ever happened. The book of Joshua, which comes somewhat later in the Bible, but is about this very conquest of the Promised Land, speaks of fighting those Midianites all over again, who suddenly reappear after being extinguished in Parashat Maseh. Did they miraculously make a comeback? The trouble I have with much of the history in the Bible is that it is told centuries after the fact, and in my mind is much more intended to assist in the creation story of how we became the Jewish people. Why say that we must kill all of the Midianites who tend to reappear just a few books later? We might never know. By the time of the Babylonian exile, the Midianites had been gone for several generations. They had been absorbed into the local culture. The answer may simply be that those who wrote it were writing about their return to the Promised Land, saying if they wanted to create an Israelite country, you needed to make it homogeneous. When I first read Massey 15 or 20 years ago, I immediately thought of the Palestinians, who are indeed nettles in the eyes of Israel and thorns in their sides. It seems that our ancestors did not rid the land of its inhabitants either 2,600 years ago or 75 years ago. But this is a much more important discussion for another time. For me, the establishment of a moral code of conduct is what is most interesting in this parasha. In dividing the land among the tribes, it says that the Levites should maintain their own towns, the tabernacle, but also the 6 towns of refuge, 3 in Canaan and 3 more east of the Jordan River. These towns of refuge shall be a safe haven for those who unintentionally killed someone. The interesting part here, of course, is that intention comes into play. If one kills another person, they shall be brought to trial in front of the high priest, and if found guilty, the murderer shall be put to death. However, if it is unintentional, the person may flee to one of the towns of refuge and live some sort of life, albeit a life in exile. He must not leave this town for fear of being avenged by the family of the person killed. This is a major departure from Hammurabi's code, which was written in 1750 BCE, more than 1,000 years before the writing of this parasha. Of course, the code is far more draconian. It's the old eye for an eye stuff. But the addition of intent is significant and still found in many legal coda today. This is not to say that the unintentional murderer gets away with the act, for he does not. He must stay in the city of refuge without family, without his normal trade, and in a city populated by other unintended murderers, a very strange existence. Another interesting twist is that he may only leave the city of refuge upon the death of the high priest. It seems as there's some sort of balancing between the death of the priest and the death of the innocent victims. There is a long discussion on what constitutes intent as opposed to accidental death, but it just boils down to killing with malice and forethought or killing purely by accident. Very different from the idea of sanctuary, which existed in ancient cultures back then as well as today, but that applied to both the innocent and the guilty. A further refinement is equally interesting. Testimony from a single witness is not enough to convict. There must be multiple witnesses to a murder in order to pronounce guilt. And finally, there can be no bribery to set a guilty or innocent man free. The facts must speak for themselves. Whether the powerful could manipulate the law back then and the poor not, we do not know. But what we do know is that the intent of the law was for justice to be blind to power, wealth, or poverty. These changes in law, written down over 2,600 years ago, have had a lasting impact to this very day. And this is my takeaway from this parasha. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom and Yasher Koach. You raised a number of things, one of which I want to lift up, which is talking about the status of Israel and what is going on there. If you're interested in that conversation, on August 1st at 9:30, Rabbi Blake will be joining Torah Study for a conversation about Israel, West Bank, and the possibility of annexation that the current prime minister has been talking about for quite a while. But the other thing I've been taking away and has inspired me in my own writings, as well as inspiring me right now, is the gift that the Torah brought into the world of considering intent and not necessarily only considering who you are. That everyone deserves a fair trial, a fair take. Everyone deserves to be treated equally under our assumptions. That is one of the ideas that is presented in this parsha. So I'm carrying all of that. So thank you, Mike, for that. And additionally, I want to come back to this idea of intention, the way in which what we want to do matters. And I know that as a whole community right now, we all want to pray that our world will feel a little bit more healed, that we will be in a place where healing is not just something that happens quickly and easily, but something that happens because it is necessary for society to grow. And it is also necessary for people whom we love who are in pain. So we think of a few people that I'm going to name that our congregation is thinking of, and I know there are more, and I invite others to share in the chat or in your own heart, those whom we are praying for healing. Mitchell Slater, Eleanor Mazur, Deborah Kapnick, Nicole Schusse, Ray Josell, Amelia Austin, Joy Schertzer, Leah Greenspan, Aviva Tzila Bat Esther Bela, Dan Sokoloff, Jeffrey Millman, Chava Bat Sara, Eliyahu Chaim Ben Fredel, Sheila Freed, Tanya Romanoff, Yitzchak Yona Ben May, Yaakov Hirsch Ben Rachel, Malka Tzipora Bas Rachel, Tamar Bat Malka, Heschel Meir Ben David Achana, and David Ze'ev Ben Fruma Etel, and all those whom we are carrying in our hearts, including Will Ramsey, and so many more. We offer these words, Misha Berach.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
We continue with Aleinu L'Shabeach. Aleinu L'Shabeach Ladon HaKol, Laten Klula Leotzer Breshit, Shelo Asanu Kigoe Haratot, Velo Samanu Kmishpachot Adama, Shelo Sam Chelkenu Kahem, Vegor Aleinu Kechol Hamonam, Ve'anachnu Porim, Umishtachavim Umodim, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. I had the chance the other day to pick up a book that I have not looked at in a while, Finding Each Other in Judaism by the Rabbi Harold M. Schulweis, one of the greats of our generation. And in flipping through the book, I found a reading that felt so prescient for right now and yet so far away. He writes, "No one knows my grief. treasures my private memory, I mourn alone. The grief is my own, of my flesh and bone, I mourn alone. But I mourn alone in the midst of my people, in the minyan, with others who cry and remember their own loss. Alone together, an individual in community, present to each other, we are each other's comfort. Alone together, we are each other's consolation. Alone we are mortal, together immortal. A community does not die. The Kaddish requires community. The Kaddish must be answered. The Kaddish calls for response. Together we answer. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach. With his words in our hearts, we turn to those whom we have loved and lost in years past, in this season, in recent days, and in years gone by. We begin by remembering those whom we have lost in the past 4 weeks. Doris Lou Beck, mother of Bruce Beck, Paul Coburn, father of Eric Coburn, Donald Kay, brother of Harriet Sobel, Randy Guggenheimer Jr., father of Randy Guggenheimer, Paulina Muchnick, great aunt of Cantor Danielle Rodnitsky, Andrew De Jesus, son of Evelyn and Mark Roller, Eugene Gendel, father of Benjamin Gendel and ex-husband of Michelle Smith, Bernard S. Goldstein, father of Joyce Podolak, Irene Moore Corman, and Mark Goldstein. And the yard site, the anniversary of their passing, we remember Jonathan Austin, Max Citron, Selma Clarvett, Charles Cohen, Israel Michael Diesenhaus, Samuel Dodick, Anita Dominguez, Romulo Munguia, Tobet Doroshow, Murray Ellman, Adeline Fishman, Rudolph Forsheimer, Leo Forsheimer, Otto Forsheimer, Ernest Neumer, Mildred G. Frankel, Joseph Giselle, Paul Gendel, Louis Gingold, Sam Glazer, Selma Glassman, Jerome Goldstein, Pearl Levin Goldstein, Barbara Goodman, Morton Holliday, Betty Kessler, David Kessner, Philip Kleinman, Jesse Kupferberg, Betty Landis, William I. Leffler, Esther Leichman, C. Robert Lemley, Lawrence Levine, Edna Mayers, Herman S. Meltzer, Isabel Moros, Lawrence Mark Rifkin, Jacques Rossano, Henry Rothenberg, Harry Seides, Libby Seides, Lena Rothschild, Joseph Rubens, Jody Sandhaus, Billy Safian, Alan Scharfman, Elaine Schwartz, Ira Shapiro, Lawrence Silver, George Smilo, David Smith, Robert Weiner, David Wise, Charlotte Wolk, and Sylvia Young. We draw into our hearts those whom we've remembered aloud and those whom we are only carrying in our hearts. We offer now the words of Kadisha Tom, alone together, connected even though we are far apart. We say these words. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'gala u'bizman kariv yimru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei amaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmeid kutsha b'richu, La'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'romav, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'romav, hu ya'asei shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'himehu. Amen. A few announcements before we offer Kiddush and Motzi. First, thank you for praying with me. Thank you to my colleagues, Cantor Daniel Rudnitsky, and to our intern, Ariel Milan Polisar, for helping us embrace Shabbat and welcome it this evening. Tomorrow morning, should you want to continue this conversation about Matot Maseh, there's a lot happening in it. And I know Mike's words inspired me to want to read some more, and I've been reading a lot about it over the past few weeks. Join us for Torah study. That'll be tomorrow morning, Saturday, July 18th at 9:30. Zoom link is in your e-blast. And if you're joining us and you have young people with you, young people, I know I'm a young person to some of you, but young people, little people, people my kids' age. So we have a family summer Saturday. So it's designed for kids who are elementary to kind of preschool. Every Saturday over the summer at 10:30 in the morning. It's fun, it's silly. I get my green screen out so you don't get my, my standard background. And we do a little bit of engaging with Shabbat and engaging deeper with what Shabbat, this particular parsha of the week, has to teach us. If you haven't been joining us for Rabbi Blake's class, Mishnah, the Building Blocks of Jewish Life, that continues on this Thursday, July 23rd at 10:15 a.m. Again, all the links you can find in your e-blast. Colleagues, anything you want to add in terms of announcements that I missed?
I just want to add that next Friday, I'm going to be on Facebook Live, which many of you are joining us on right now, making my weekly challah. So if you enjoy hearing about all of the different challahs I make every week, whether you're a veteran, whether you're a beginner, please join me at 10 a.m. on Facebook Live next Friday. And with that, Kiddush, please join with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta Ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. L'chaim. Okay, so we have a little challah off this week. Mine is, let's see if I can pick it up here. Mine is whole wheat everything. So you can
Me
see.
too.
Yep. So you too can make challah with me next week if you want to. Please join us in Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat Shalom.
And we'll go ahead, Rabbi Levy. I'm sorry.
No, please, you.
We'll conclude the way we began with a little nigun that brings us some of the joy, some of the oneg Shabbat. Even when we can't get together for oneg, we can have oneg this way. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
אלוהי נצור לשוני מרע ושפתי מדבר מרמה ואם חללי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לכל תהיה אלוהי אלוהי נצור לשוני מרע ושפתי מדבר מרמה ואם חללי נפשי תדום ונפשי כעפר לכל